Is innovation dead in the world of watches? Modern releases often seem stuck in the past, repeating the same ideas and rarely making anything new. On the surface, it seems that watchmaking and design is a stagnant field, largely solved decades ago. Take the recent AP and Swatch Royal Pop collab, a release created just to cash in on a reused iconic design. Or is it? Despite what it looks like, I actually think it's an example of how innovation is alive and well in the industry, just not in the way you'd expect. But before we get to how that is, it's important to briefly discuss how we got to questioning if innovation is even dead in the first place. In a field as old as watchmaking, just about everything has been done before. When the idea of a diving watch was novel in the 50s, creating new designs was mostly unexplored. Today, we have decades of precedent behind us. The low-hanging fruit has long since been harvested. That's the core issue. We expect modern watches to innovate just as they did in the past. Think about the most successful watches in the industry's heritage brands: Rolex, Omega, Cartier, JLC, Patek, Breitling, etc. All of them are resting on their laurels with designs that are 50 or even 100 years old. It takes a significant amount of genius or luck to create something these days that is both unique and attractive enough to gain popularity. And mechanically, it's a similar story. Watches just aren't getting much better year by year, and the reason is simple. Improving technology becomes more difficult over time, as more and more efficiencies and inventions are made. These diminishing returns as you approach a physical limit follow a logistic growth model, and you see it everywhere in improving fields. In long-distance running, it was the race to the sub-2-hour marathon. With technologies like CPU speeds and solar energy efficiency, you see the same curve. In pharmacology, this phenomenon is known as Eroom's law, where drug discovery or innovation is less frequent over time and more expensive, despite the improvement in the surrounding technology involved. In watchmaking, that limit has largely been the lever escapement. It's been the foundation of mechanical movements for over 250 years, and despite constant refinements, it has remained relatively unchanged ever since. Watchmaking became so reliant on it that when a superior alternative came along, quartz, the entire industry essentially collapsed, and arguably still hasn't recovered. That's why progress has seemed slow. The difficulty to innovate classically has become significantly higher. But that doesn't mean it's stopped. It's just moved to different areas. Getting back to the AP Swatch collaboration, how is that an example of modern innovation? Well, what is innovation exactly? It goes by a few definitions, but generally, innovation is an implementation of ideas that results in a new or changed entity that improves something. By this definition, modern watchmaking innovation can be split into four main categories. The Royal Pop is a perfect example of the first of these: increased availability of affordable high horology. While new designs are still being made, modern innovation has moved towards making these existing iconic designs more accessible. And whether you like it or not, collaboration watches like the Royal Pop are doing exactly that. They're bringing what was once an unattainable design language to a much wider audience in an official capacity. The Moonswatch sold over 1 million units in its first year alone, and the estimate is above 4 million as of 2025. Just that one watch sold as many units as the entirety of Rolex in the same amount of time. Clearly, there's a huge demand for these iconic designs, and making them affordable only expands the interest to the mass market. But this goes far beyond just design, and into high horology complications too. Christopher Ward's Bel Canto is the most obvious example, which made the minute repeater accessible for only a few $1,000s, when it usually goes for 50 times that price. What's not well known is that Meistersinger were actually the first to do this in their Bel Aura, about a year prior, and for a similar price. Frederic Constant has made their name in this space, like with their perpetual calendar, that's about a fourth the price of even entry-level versions of the same complication elsewhere. It used to be unheard of for a tourbillon to be called affordable, but now brands like Horology are producing them at an achievable price at very high quality. And Chinese manufacturers have found ways to create their own tourbillons for dirt cheap as well. Although it's not the traditional innovation we come to expect, expanding the availability of watches by lowering the entry point is innovation. It utilizes modern manufacturing efficiencies to create the same product, but on a larger scale and cheaper. If you prefer this deep dive and, dare I say, innovative approach to watches, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. This channel specializes in exploring the deeper philosophy, statistics, and hidden gems in watch collecting with a new video every week. We're on the road to doubling our first big milestone of 1,000 subscribers, and joining will help us get there. Thanks. Watches today are being optimized for comfort, convenience, and a better fit now more than ever before. Obviously, micro-adjustment clasps have been hugely popular recently, probably in large part because of the larger and top-heavy nature of modern watches, and the need to get a better fit. It's a relatively new technology though, that wasn't developed until the late 90s or so, with watches such as Seiko's Marine Master 300 in 2000 that had a ratcheting diving extension. Rolex's Glide Lock technology, releasing in 2008, was a huge step forward for the industry, and ever since, most major brands have implemented their own version. Even Grand Seiko, a brand known for lackluster bracelet design. Convenience in general is a lot more prevalent than it used to be. Quick-release spring bars on bracelets, particularly in microbrands like Formex, and easily removable link technologies such as Cartier's Smart Link are becoming increasingly common. Bracelet articulation and comfort has been a fairly untapped area until recently as well. Cartier's new Santos Dumont bracelet is a great example of this trend. But Ming's 3D printed titanium mesh bracelet probably takes the cake as far as improvements in this space go. And the fact that it's a world first and relatively affordable only proves that brands are innovating for the mass market even more. Brands are optimizing sizing too. Trends are moving back towards smaller watches, and we see brands hitting their stride with sizing choices and refinements to thickness. Watches are released with multiple different options for sizes, and typically in more wearable dimensions now too. Even though smaller watches are a matter of taste, a more moderate average size opens up the market to significantly more people. The recent thinness race happening is only proof of this optimizing, with new world records in thinness happening practically every 6 months or so. I would be amiss not to mention Bulgari here, as they're probably the industry leaders in making ultra-thin watches. In fact, Bulgari's Octo Finissimo chronograph GMT from 2019 is still the thinnest automatic chronograph in the world, and you can get one for under $10,000. Which is just absolutely ridiculous to think about. But thinness is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to physical innovation. Significant efforts are being made to change the way watches work as well. The industry's lack of replacement of the lever escapement hasn't been for a lack of trying. Many efforts have been made to improve it, including George Daniel's coaxial escapement most famously. But even then, the physical limitations always show back up. A large aspect of this has been what's known as the tolerance cost curve in machining. As parts need to be made smaller and smaller, the cost of these smaller tolerances scales exponentially with the size. There reaches a point where we can only reduce the size of our movements in watches so much without it becoming too expensive to machine. It really has only been in the last few years or so that genuine efforts towards improving the current movement architecture have been made. Of course, there's Grand Seiko's spring drive, which is powered by a mainspring, but it isn't entirely mechanical either. To truly innovate and improve the mechanical movement, watchmakers have had to take advantage of new designs and materials. Besides its size, the biggest issue with current designs is the friction involved in the mechanism. The coaxial escapement remedied this slightly, but to really fix this, watchmakers have had to design new escapements entirely. There have been two main methods on this front: the use of magnets and compliant mechanisms. Magnets serve the distinct advantage of being able to remove all contact involved in the escapement. Breguet's Experimental 1 is the most noteworthy example of this. It's still in its infancy, and the watch costs nearly $500,000, but I could see this revolutionizing the industry in the future. To explain the second method, I first need to explain the most influential modern material utilization in watchmaking: silicon. What makes silicon so important is that it's non-ferrous, extremely light, hard, and smooth. These properties provide a few distinct advantages. First, because it's non-ferrous, it cannot be magnetized. Making a hairspring from silicon stops nearly all magnetization from affecting the movement. This is such a big deal that it's quickly becoming the industry standard, such as in Rolex's new Soloxy or Tissot's Powermatic 80. Second, using it in the escapement yields a lighter part, meaning less inertia required, and thus a longer power reserve. Oris's Caliber 403 uses silicon escape wheel, and can achieve a 5-day power reserve as a result. Third, being hard and smooth creates an environment with very low friction, which in turn reduces the wear on parts and removes the need for lubrication in the escapement. Orage's K2 and K3 movements are a great example of this, and have extended service intervals because of it. And lastly, silicon parts aren't cut or machined, they're etched. This completely solves the issues with the tolerance cost curve, as incredibly small parts no longer require expensive, tight tolerance machining to make them. So obviously silicon has been quite influential and innovative to the watch space. But what does this have to do with compliant mechanisms? Well, in short, a compliant mechanism is a structure that uses the inherent tension in a material to achieve motion or force transmission. Watchmakers have learned to use these to their advantage by replacing the entire escapement with a single oscillating part, made of silicon, which in turn removes nearly all downsides of current designs. These parts typically have complex geometries impossible to machine at scale and essentially no friction, thanks to the material. What's even better is that this technology is entirely attainable too. Zenith's Defy Lab, followed by the Defy Inventor, were the first to make use of these mechanisms. But Frederic Constant's slimline monolithic may be the most impressive, because you can get one for around $5,000. To be clear, this is industry revolutionizing tech utilizing new designs and materials for half the price of a standard Rolex. If that's not innovation, I don't know what is. I usually end the videos with the obscure reference, but I felt that today's model bridged the gap between this section and the next, so I'm including it here this time. And that's because Horology's Revolution 3 proves a revolution in the way we interact with movements is right around the corner. Of course, this watch utilizes a completely silicon escapement and hairspring because of the K2 movement inside, and has a low thickness due to the brand's hallmark micro rotor as well. But what makes it special is the micro-reg technology inside. It is, that I know of, the only tech in the entire industry that allows for the watch to be regulated without opening it. It works by using a specialized external device that hooks up to the case and interacts with an internal mechanism to modify the balance wheel's regulation by tenths of a second. The idea is to complete the quest to zero, and get as close to zero deviation per day while keeping the watch completely mechanical. And astoundingly enough, it's incredibly affordable for what it is. And that isn't even to mention the other quirks this design has, of which there are many. The entire watch is essentially upside down, which creates a frankly strange dial, which actually has quite a beautiful color-changing peacock finish. The front side time display is on a singular hour wheel, with the hands actually being on the backside of the case as well. But all of this is fairly easy to gloss over when you have such unique and potentially revolutionary technology capable of potentially perfect accuracy inside of it. And that leads us right into the final area of modern innovation I wanted to cover, the race towards perfect accuracy. While creating new escapements and designing new movement architecture has proven tricky over the years, the constant improvement of accuracy has been an ever-present force, and it's been ramping up quite a bit recently, primarily in the alternative and non-mechanical movement space. Grand Seiko's UFA is the standout here, achieving an annual accuracy of plus or minus 20 seconds, which is astounding for a mainspring-powered watch. In the quartz space, accuracies have been getting crazy too, with Longines developing their VHP caliber in 2017 and Bulva's high-performance quartz both being around 5 seconds per year, for example. Although the most impressive accuracy is definitely Citizen's caliber 0100, that's achieved 1 second per year, which to my knowledge is the most accurate movement in the world without outside regulation. With mechanical movements though, it's a different story. Because of the limitations I've mentioned, achieving high accuracy has been a slow-moving endeavor. Obviously, there have been improvements in certifications such as METAS, but by and large, accuracy won't be revolutionized until a technology shift. Average accuracy has been getting better as a whole though. Brands are refining their manufacturing processes and finally learning how to produce highly accurate mechanical movements at scale. Tudor, Omega, and Rolex are some standouts, producing a combined 1.8 million watches in 2025, most of which being chronometer or METAS certified. High accuracy watches have existed for quite a while, but the production of them at this scale is relatively new. We're now seeing cost certifications at below $500, which was completely unheard of in the past. So, is innovation dead in watchmaking? No, not even close. The focus has just changed. We aren't in the era of revolutionary new design languages and incredible changes to the paradigm of watches anymore, but rather, we're in a period of refinement. Brands are slowly improving every aspect of the comfort, design, and efficiency of our watches, while making what was once unachievable accessible. And in the future, I believe this will continue. Expect to see an industry-wide adoption of silicon and other exotic materials, and a continuation of attainable luxury designs, even if watches won't become cheaper as a whole. Brands are going to continue to realize that their best bet to continue growth and profits is to expand their markets to a wider audience by making aspects like high accuracy, thin movements, and high horology design languages available to the average person. But perhaps I'm wrong. What do you think the next age of innovation will bring to the world of watches? More divisive pieces, like the Royal Pop, or maybe new technologies we couldn't possibly predict? I'm also curious to hear about any particularly innovative watches you know about that I missed. And if you're interested in how brands have been innovating and getting you to buy their watches, watch this video here. I go into the marketing tactics and manipulation companies use to persuade collectors to purchase as much as possible. Thank you for taking the time to watch.